Hang on. It's gonna. I was commented on that not too long ago. It was a good joke. So here you go. All right, we're gonna call the meeting to order, 6 o'clock.
Ms. Howe?
Here.
Ms. Butler Challenger here. Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Fewens Bliss?
Here.
Ms. Kellerman?
Here.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Here.
Mr. Benzie will be absent this evening.
All right, for those of you who have an agenda, item 2, we'll do civil reflections and pledge of allegiance. And after that, we'll do silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, item 3 is approval of the agenda.
I would like to add something before the meeting starts. Important for the board to know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I recognized to do so. I was just waiting for you to say.
I had a very disturbing thing happen this weekend. I was working on a house in South Lansing, and I drove up over the weekend to go to the offices to pick up the agenda. Did not know, my key didn't work. Had no idea why it didn't work. Find out, the rumors are that the locks were changed, that I found out eventually. I did not have a key, was not told they were changed, never did get a key. My sign says accountability. I would like to know how this happened to me, why I was locked out of our offices, for what reason. Was there a meeting that I didn't know about? Was this some person's decision? I would like to understand this. And it's very upsetting, to say the least. I think the public should know, and I think this board should know. I would like to have some answers, yes, from the board.
I could probably address that in superintendent's report.
Okay.
Superintendent's report is on page 3, item 15, for those of you who don't know. All right, we're gonna have, apparently there are no answers at this point. Superintendent will answer that in item 15.
Supervisor, is your microphone on?
You turn it on.
No idea. Oh,
Okay, thank you.
don't get shot, guys. I'll try to be really quiet. Can you hear? Thank you. I guess, are they all on?
Yes.
That sucker stares me right in the eye. Okay. Approval of the agenda, item 3.
I move we approve the agenda as printed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? I have one. I'd like to move item D under 13, unfinished business, and postpone it to April 3rd.
Why?
Because there's some discrepancies in it. And I will be going into that, so I'm just asking at this point for an amendment, and it was second, so that's my discussion. my amendment is to remove item D, 13D, until April 3rd, to postpone it. And the question was why? And I responded by saying that I have some questions with regards to that contract. So I'm looking to postpone it till April 3rd, our next Board of Trustees meeting. Do I have a second for that amendment?
Second.
We already have a motion.
Well, that's my amendment.
You can't amend it.
Okay. Okay, we'll go your way.
Great, that's the most.
Roll call?
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Am I voting for the approval of agenda? No.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
No.
Thank you.
Item 4, disclosure of conflict of interest. Don't see any, none at this time. Did you have, I'm sorry, Ryan, I missed you. Did you have something to say? Is there a conflict of interest?
I was waving to the person who was taking pictures of us in the back.
Oh. Okay. Okay, item 5 is public statements or comments. It has to do with what's on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Do I have any takers? Have one.
I might have been mistaken, but I was under the impression that the agenda was going to be on one of the monitors, and is this meeting not being recorded?
It is being recorded. The agenda is just not on the screen. There's agendas printed out on the podium.
Okay, because that's what you mentioned, I think at the last, or maybe 2 meetings ago, I know you had 2 of them one day right after the other. You had mentioned that, if I'm not mistaken, this was going to be the picture of the board, and then that one was going to have the agenda on it.
I'm unable to have the agenda up on the screen at the same time that I'm doing the live stream. Supervisor Howe did ask if I was able to do that. That was the discussion that took place.
Okay, so is there a reason we're not doing the live screen?
We are live streaming right now.
We are, but
It doesn't go on the screen. It live streams to YouTube, which is linked on the front of the Township website.
okay, so I don't see any agendas, and I don't have one.
I'm happy to print more.
Okay, well,
So what, at least 2?
actually, what I'd like to know is what the changes were. There was an amendment to add something that Cheryl had mentioned about the key, and,
That wasn't a change. I'll just provide an update to that under the superintendent's report.
okay. And who seconded
I think there was already a
approval of the
motion on the
agenda?
floor before the amendment came forth.
Yeah, who seconded that?
I did. Jennifer?
Okay. Okay, that tells me. I'd also like to know a couple of things about our process, even though this isn't on the agenda. Why are there meetings that are hidden on Facebook? Why can't we access the meetings anymore like we used to be able to?
I don't know that this is a place for dialogue, but they are actually live streamed to our website and then to a YouTube channel, so anyone can access them.
Well, when you go to the YouTube channel, your website doesn't have a record.
They're on the YouTube channel. They're all archived on the YouTube channel.
Except that YouTube channel says 5 are hidden.
I don't believe there's anything hidden.
I do.
Okay, well, if you could screenshot that and send it to us, we'd try to work that out, but I don't believe any of them are hidden.
I'll be
It says
happy
it,
to do
it
that.
says that on there. I didn't know what it meant. It says 4 or 5 hidden.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for public statements? Okay. Dwight, I think you're up. Our commissioner.
Good evening, trustees. Processing and thinking, it's good to be here, and I'm just kind of slightly reflecting about how much my family has appreciated being in Bath. So let me announce, I'm Dwight Washington, 4600 Clark Road, Bath Township, County Commissioner. And there's been a lot going on. Not much has changed, but I do have like a list of things that we've gone over that I think would be pertinent for the trustees to know that I'd just like to share with you. And there's been a lot, Clinton County has gotten a lot of attention as of lately in the media. And it's a sign of things developing and growing. So we do anticipate there's going to be more of that in the future. And we're trying to hold true to keeping taxes low and providing a quality of life that people can be proud of to live in Clinton County. And one of the ways that we're going forward is that we did vote to approve a special land application for solar power in Greenbush Township. That was something that did come with some controversy, but it's bringing to awareness of a need for a really strong, well laid out land use planning map, and that's something that we have on the table for us to go forward. Part of the land use development as it is now is that we voted not to ratify Michigan Economic Development Corporation's confidentiality non-disclosure act, and what we found is that the businesses, big businesses, they want it to be kept quiet so that they can have a competitive edge when they apply for land or consider putting businesses in Clinton County. But as you may or may not have heard, there's been a big development with what they're referring to the mega site in Eagle Township that has the potential of bringing a new factory to Clinton County, and the residents there are very displeased with that, and they found that it was very distasteful of us to sign a non-disclosure statement, and so that put us in a bind. And so because we recognize the business's interest in developing that property, we realized that, and the response from the public was that that wasn't right. So we are trying to be as transparent as possible and not signing that disclosure agreement. We've also approved an amount for the Clinton County Jail. We've also, in the Sheriff's Department, we've also provided money for new body cameras. So now all the road patrols will have cameras on their cars. Our animal patrol and our transport people who transport people from the county house to from the courthouse to the jail will also have cameras on them, so they'll be more accountable, and we'll have better reliability of what's taking place with our Sheriff's Department. One of the really exciting thing about our county is our Clinton County transportation, Clinton area transit system, and they've asked for free rides or partially free rides for veterans, and so we're going to be providing them $500 a month up to $6,000 annually, and that's really so that our veterans can get to medical, they can get to shopping, they can get to friends and family, and those services extend beyond the reach that the transit allows for most people. So if they do need to go to Ann Arbor Hospital or Detroit Hospital, those are something that's available for them. Essential Dispatch Radio Project has provided monies for Bath Fire Department to acquire 2 more radios that they'll be paying some for, but the total cost is $58,000. The Bath Fire Department will pay approximately $5,800. So we see that as a means, again, to connecting the county with the information system that we're all able to be on the same page. Then, the last thing on my list that I want to share with you is that the county did approve a memorandum of understanding with Frontier for public-private partnership. And the reason that we did that is because we wanted to get our grant submitted on time to Robin, the state's agency on broadband development. And we felt with the Frontier as our partner, they would be able to provide a larger grant, which would then put us in a more competitive position to be able to get the fundings from Robin. So the Presently, the grant requested is for 16 million. The Frontier project contribution is 9 million, and then Clinton County's contribution is 2.5 million at the moment. So that doesn't add up to the total cost, which is $27,746,000. 27,746,100,000. And so while that is a lot of money, there was a special note that I want to read to you from our administrator, and it says, please ask Bath Township if they would like to have Adam Smitty from Brick Guidehouse attend their April-May board meeting to provide an update on the broadband initiative. And if that's something that you would like further detail on, Adam Smitty, the consultant, would be willing to come talk to you, and they just asked that you let John know. And Comcast has also submitted a Robin Grant application for the southern portion of Clinton County, and Bath Township may discuss the possibility of using ARPA funds currently dedicated for broadband improvements with Comcast. So their funds are not included with the county contributions above. So right now, the county would like your funds, but they're still waiting for your decision on whether or not you choose to do that. And that's my report. If you have any questions, I can do my best to understand or get back to you.
Mine only is a statement. Adam Smitty, I've heard him before. As far as I'm concerned, I think that's a really good idea, that he come to the board and give an update.
I can pass it along. I do know that
Okay.
each township's a little bit differently, so
Sure.
we do want to respect the individuality of all
Nope,
townships.
understand that completely. I'm just telling you my point.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner, appreciate it. All right, for those that are following, item 7, which is the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item 8, which is the approval of the minutes. We have A and B, township board meetings, and our township board meeting on the 6th and the 7th. 7th was a special meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustee meetings held on March 6, 2023 and March 7, 2023 as submitted.
Second.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. We have item 9. This one includes the approval of all vouchers, I'm assuming, which we've done this many times. Motion?
I make a motion to approve the vouchers.
Second.
Ms. Howe?
No.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes.
And item 10, treasury report, appears that there is none. Committee appointments, item 11, also none. Township committee report, Friends of Park Lake, Ms. Gardy.
Good evening, Judy Gardy.
Thank goodness it's not just me.
Judy Gardy, Chairperson of Friends of Park Lake. Can you hear me? Good. Tonight I just want to talk about community building opportunities that we are undertaking in Bath Township as Friends of Park Lake, and encourage you to partner with us again this year as you have in the past. On June 10th, we're hosting our second family bike ride. We had one last year. It was organized by a high school student who wanted to work on his National Honor Society points, you know, so he could get better recognition for his community effort in scholarship applications. So he wanted to do a family bike ride. So we hosted a family bike ride. He helped us plan it. Dwight was very instrumental in planning that with us. This year we are going to have our second bike ride, Park Lake Bike Ride. It'll be June 10th. This year, Tokai, he's our volunteer from the high school, has worked to create a youth bicycle club, and they are being sponsored by the Delmac. So our ride on June the 10th will be a Delmac practice ride. People who ride the Delmac ride from Lansing to the Mackinac Bridge, and it's a long ride, and they need practice rides in the meantime. So we will have 3 routes that the riders will take. The first route will be a 10-mile route, and it will go to the Great Valley Long Necks Farm on Howell Road, and they'll have a farm tour up there, which will be just really fun for them. The second ride will go to the Corey Marsh and Bird Observatory, the Corey Marsh Ecological Center on Herbison Road, and the Bird Observatory, which is on Clark Road. And then we'll have a 30-mile ride, and it will go to Sleepy Hollow State Park. Sleepy Hollow actually had their bike trails rated by the state of Michigan last year, and their bike trails through the park rated 12 out of 104. So once the riders get up there, they will have a tour of this, one of the longest state park bike routes, and then return to Wishwasher Park. Registration will start about 8:30 for the bike ride on June the 10th, so we will be in the pavilion. Many riders will leave their cars for the duration of the ride. The 10-mile ride, the cars will be there probably for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. You know, the 20-mile ride, the cars will be there for a little bit longer. So we have actually reserved the park until 2 o'clock, just to make sure that everybody gets out of there in case there are a graduation party or something that wants to come in. The second event will be our summer solstice party. Now, we have done this for about 10 years now. We've decided to do it actually on summer solstice, which is a Wednesday. It'll be from 5 o'clock in the afternoon until 10 o'clock in the evening. We'll have a band, a live concert from 7 to 9. But in addition to that, we'll have many partners that you recognize. The Park Lake Advisory Board will be down there with the big net casting. We've invited the Central Michigan Beekeepers Association to come do an educational program and exhibit on bees, and so we'll have bees and hives and honey, and there'll be some bee vendors there. We'll also have a food truck there called the Little Honey Pot, which they do lovely desserts, but they also do a lot of really good fast enchilada Mexican kind of tacos that people will enjoy. We'll have fun things there like a balloon twister and a bounce house. Again, that's June 21st from 5 till 10 at Wishwasher Park. Generally, when we partner with the township, you help us in several ways. One, you provide us with tables. We'd like 10. Chairs. We do try to organize the parking, so we do use barricades, so we need 2 sets of barricades, 3 cones, and a couple of canopies. We also do appreciate your putting Friends of Park Lake for the summer solstice event on your insurance policy for the park. As a rider, you can add us as a special one-day event to your policy. So we would appreciate that as well. The bike ride is the 10th of June, and the summer solstice is the 21st of June. Just an update quickly on the traffic calming. We have ordered the yard signs. We'll be getting 35 of them. They will go from Park Lake Road, Webster, all the way up through the neighborhood, and we might, if you don't mind, put 1 or 2 of them on approaches like that township-owned property, approach the beach, approach the park, just so people know that the township's engaging with us as we try to calm the traffic along Park Lake Road. Be happy to answer any questions, and I do appreciate the time that you've allowed us to have here on the agenda tonight. I I realize in talking with Brenda that we do have to probably have this on the agenda 1 week, and then you will probably have to vote on whether or not you can support us with the equipment that we've asked, and the use of the park. We really need your permission to move forward, and I greatly appreciate your time and your partnership. Thank you. Any questions?
Good job. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have one? All right, item 13. Again, thank you, Judy. Unfinished business, items for introduction and discussion. Doesn't appear to be any for A. B, you have items for action, and apparently there's a laundry list. The Somerset special. Where's Miles? Thank you, Miles. That's Miles Robler? Thank you.
All right, a lot of people in the room tonight, as Supervisor Howe said. My name is Miles Roller, I'm the Township Planner. What you guys have before you tonight is the Sunrise Forest LLC Special Use Permit. So just some background on the site here. For the site in question tonight, this is a almost $5 million facility on Saginaw Highway, on the corner of Saginaw Highway and Old M78. The Township Board of Trustees conditionally approved 3 adult-use marijuana permits for Sunrise Forest LLC. At a previous meeting, the applicant, which is Sunrise Forest LLC, is requesting special use permit now for the building and the user of suites A and B, which is Flora. This would be in addition to their previously approved land uses, which I'll go through what we have previously approved here, because there are a few. General retail establishments, restaurants, provisional medical center, medical marijuana grow class A, and medical marijuana processor. The applicant for the site plan approval was the Maximum Development. They came to the Planning Commission at our last regularly scheduled meeting and gained approval of the site plan from the Planning Commission and a recommendation from the Planning Commission that the Board of Trustees conditionally approve the special use permit in front of them tonight. There have been many changes and updates to the site since the board last conditionally approved the adult use marijuana permits. So if the board would allow me, I would like to turn it over to the developer so they can say a couple words.
Nope, makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, and great to see you all tonight. I want to just talk a little bit about a couple of updates since I saw you last. We've had a lot of work at the site today. We had the police chief and the fire chief there today, and had a great walkthrough with them. Thad Gormis, of course, sorry to not introduce myself initially, and great to be back. I live about 10 miles away, just outside of Bath Township, as Ryan will remind me. But I also like to invite, we've had some really exciting announcements since we were last here, including who our neighbors are going to be. So I'd like to introduce one of our neighbors, if you don't mind.
Hi, I'm Stacy Wallace. I know Ryan, I don't know most of you. I am a Bath resident, and I'm going to be the franchisee of the new Berry Bagels that's going to be in that development. And so I just wanted to introduce myself, say hello, and I'm happy to be neighbors with them. So sure.
Berry Bagels, is that B-E-R-R-Y?
Correct. It's not plural. It's Berry Bagels.
Thank you.
It's a franchise out of Toledo. So, but it's been in Ann Arbor too for decades.
I was gonna say, that sounds like one in Ann Arbor. Thank you. That answered that question.
And we have hired now, I think we just hired our 13th employee so far, and looking forward to starting here, assuming that you all see fit to approve the project today. We look forward to opening either April 3rd or 10th, depending on how all the inspections go. So pretty soon. And if you walk through there today, like we had a lot of folks do, you might be surprised that that's the case. But I think we had 8 different people representing 4 different trades. They're all working together, which is quite the dance. So we're very appreciative of everybody's efforts to open here as soon as possible.
Just one quick, now maybe Miles will have to answer it. Your proposed conditions of approval, are those finished, or are they still in the process? Maybe that's,
I was gonna come back up in case you guys had
Okay.
any questions.
thank you, Mr. Gordon.
The conditions that were included in your board packet, as a part of my staff report are the conditions that the planning commission recommended for the site. It's a pretty lengthy list, and this would be in addition to the conditions of their previous land use approvals. So, in my opinion and the opinion of the planning commission, it's one of the lengthier sets of conditions we've ever put with the site, but there's a lot of land uses going on, so it feels warranted.
Are they, will these be completed before?
Some of them will be completed
Okay.
before certification of occupancy would be issued, and then some of them will just live with the land with the SUP.
Okay, got it.
And I would recommend a conditional approval tonight. This has been
Okay.
going on since.
All right, let's take A for a vote. Sunrise, motion. Take them one at a time.
I'll move approval of Sunrise Forest LLC special use permit with the recommended conditions from the planning commission as presented tonight.
Second that.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Thank you.
Don't go too far, Miles. This is a special use permit.
Let me go ahead and kick off.
Please.
So if the board remembers, this was on the agenda at your last regularly scheduled meeting. That was the introduction. They are now, the applicant is seeking action, and I think it is on the agenda for action. So just to go over and refresh what we're looking at tonight is a development for a home business special use permit. The applicant is, I'm gonna say Tammy Lance, and she's here tonight as well to answer any questions. This would be a separate, trying to think of the word here. This would be an additional land use, with the principal land use still being the primary residence. They amended their site plan to reflect our standards, within the zoning code. The planning commission found that to be acceptable. It was moved to you guys with the site plan submitted being approved and a recommendation again of a conditional approval with the conditions stated in my staff report and as a part of your packet tonight. Much fewer conditions because the land use you see as a minor change to the area. A lot less going on than the previous land use we were just talking about. Really, the only major change that the planning commission had with the plot plan that kind of evolved over time was in regards to parking and signage.
And that's under the new, not the old.
This is under the old. The new language has not come yet. So we're running all this,
That's what I thought.
we're running this whole special use permit under the old home business language. Currently adopted home business language.
Okay. Any questions? Oh, yes.
I know we had a nearby neighbor was concerned that there was not 200 feet of road frontage. Can you explain why that is not an issue here?
Yeah. So, we did get a little bit of feedback from a neighbor of this land use stating that the land use is taking place on a property that has less than 200 feet of frontage. That's important because that's the minimum frontage for any land use required in that zoning district. It was explained that this home was established on a property that is considered a lot of record, and subsequently the land use being applied for to be coupled with that home is being established on a lot of record, and new land uses are permitted to be established on a lot of record. This is long-standing in Bath Township and any municipality I've ever worked in, and I'm pretty sure every municipality in the United States of America. If lot of record was not a thing, we would have many vacant parcels in the state of Michigan and be in a much deeper housing crisis than we're already in. Lot of record is a very important tool in the planning industry.
Okay. Appears no other questions, so do I have a motion?
I move we approve the special use permit as presented tonight with the conditions presented, listed in our packet.
Second.
I have one quick question. Tammy, how do you pronounce this?
It's Zavelin's. Zavelin's. It's all three of my kids' names put together.
I was gonna ask what, so
Xander, Eve,
it's
and
pronounced Zavelin.
Zavelin's, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Item C and 13 is the South County Line Road request.
Thank you.
Superintendent.
I appreciate that. We had a great deal of discussion about County Line Road east of Tower Avenue at the last meeting. This request came from a prospective home buyer and his real estate agent that live in Meridian Township. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Sorry, I got distracted.
Easy enough. Any questions? Trustee Rosecrans?
Yeah, we were up to the county road commission, and, they tell us not to make this into a road. This is an old farm lane that he got from his house to the barn, and then out to the 500 acres, and, they don't, it's gonna cost too much, and it isn't even on the county line. It's all in Bath Township.
It sounds weird because we wouldn't get taxes from the buildings either. Because they,
What?
Yeah, they're on the
buildings would be
south side of the
outside
road.
us.
Mhm.
Right. So it seems crazy. Plus, does it not open us up to more roads that
Having
would be
more maintenance.
difficult?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Is there any way they can stop people from traveling down that road as it is? It's open use, right?
There's a public right-of-way,
Right
so,
away,
right,
so,
correct.
Okay, yeah.
If there's a public right-of-way, what's the issue? They want it paved, or at least
If we take it over.
if we took it.
The county says they have to, it has to be brought up to code.
Code.
Which would be
And
paid.
that's-
It has to be
And it'd have
rebuilt,
to be widened.
reditched, put on the county line.
With no income revenue.
So the purpose of widening it and paving it, improving it, would be for a Bath resident or for a Meridian
Meridian
resident?
Township.
Meridian.
Except we have to build the driveway culvert.
Okay. Ready for a vote?
There's a person
Do I have a motion?
Right.
There's a gentleman.
I believe the prospective homeowners here.
Okay. Are you the perspective?
He's the one that wants to buy the property in Meridian Township.
Yes, please do. Help clarify.
Hi, Pierce Hewitt. I have the prospective buyer on the south side of the road. I think the reason to discuss this is that at present, the road is recognized for the first 158 feet. It is already owned and maintained by the county. If you look at a map, if you go down the road, it's a contiguous road. It's the same road. The road goes by the same name. The fact that it is only maintained for the first 158 feet at present is arbitrary. There's not a good reason for it to only be maintained for the first 158 feet. It's confusing, and it is not in service of the county or the residents on the north side of the road who have to pay to maintain that. I understand that I would be looking at purchasing land in Meridian Township, and so I would not be contributing to tax revenue, and I respect that. But from a selfish perspective, as a prospective home builder, I would have no right to maintain that part of the road, and it would create a further issue if I needed to take any action to compel someone to maintain the road. If, for example, in the future, the homeowner on the north side no longer felt driven to maintain the road or do anything else. So while I would have right-of-way, it is public right-of-way, I would have no ability to maintain my right-of-way or to secure that in any form or fashion. So, for example, if there was plowing to be done, I could not compel that to be done without legal action, which seems unnecessary, especially given that the first portion of the road is already county road and owned and maintained. It's the fact that it isn't formally kept by the county past 158 feet just seems unnecessary and nonsensical at this point. There may have been some history in the past where it used to be an access for the farm, but that's been a long time since that was the case, and it has been used publicly for many, many years at this point. So the argument that once it was a private farm driveway, I don't think holds much water in terms of.
My question would be, if I'm understanding what you're saying, if you sold lots for the property as a developer, whoever purchased that would not have a right-of-way, or they would have the right-of-way, but it would be a dirt road, and they would have to maintain it?
They would have legal right-of-way,
Okay.
but they would have no way to secure that right-of-way. So, for example, if the homeowner on the north side passed it down to a child who had no interest in maintaining the property or living there, but kept it for tax reasons, who knows, and just decided they weren't going to plow it anymore, I would not have any right to plow the road. And if I did plow it, and for example, damage it because it's a gravel road, I would be legally liable for that because it would not be on my property, it would be on the property of the person to the north side. If they no longer decided to grade it or add gravel or anything else, and weeds started growing up and it turned into a field, I would have to essentially sue someone to compel them to maintain it because I would have no right to do it myself. And if I did go onto their property and start cutting weeds or do something that could feasibly damage the gravel road, I wouldn't be trespassing because it's public right of way.
Okay. But
They could hold me liable for damaging their property conceivably, or for otherwise modifying land that they own, because it is private property with a public right of way. And I think the confusion of this discussion illustrates the issue with this continuing to exist in its current state.
So Meridian Township said no.
Meridian Township doesn't own it.
They don't have any dog in this fight, so to speak. So the road belongs to Bath Township, correct? I mean, we don't own any roads, but, I mean, it's in Bath
Belongs to the
Township.
It's
Moral
in
Farm.
Bath Township.
Yeah, so the county, and we pay X amount of dollars for the county to maintain roads, correct?
Not that part.
But not that, no, not that parcel at this point. Okay,
So you do currently pay for the first 158 feet, but somewhat arbitrarily, there's a
Yeah.
sign that says the road ends, where the road clearly does not end. Anybody looking at a map would know that that's not the end of the road. But officially, the road ends at 158 feet, even though people have been using it for public right-of-way for many, many years,
Traveling past the 150
Correct.
feet.
which
And they go down there because,
either to turn around
Okay.
or because there are multiple parcels beyond the 158-foot mark, both on the north and south sides of the road.
so they do have access. There is
They
a
have public
public
right-of-way.
access to the road.
There's public right-of-way.
Is the house on the south side past the 158 feet?
There are at least 2 homes on the south side
Two.
past the 100.
Okay, so that division is
There
up
are currently
here.
people living there on the south side of the road past 158 feet.
And in the winter, they plow that themselves.
That's unclear. It sounds like the county is already plowing the entire thing,
Because they turn
but
around.
not formally.
They go to the end.
So they go all the
turn
way
around,
to the end,
and
turn
So it
around, and
wouldn't-
come
Go
back.
back.
Hypothetically, may not cost any additional money for plowing
Right.
than what is currently being done, but it's not formally recognized past 150.
And of course, to bring it up to snuff or bring it up to code, we would have to, Bath Township would be responsible for asphalt, responsible for widening it.
Potentially.
Okay.
It's not my area of expertise. I would
Not
say.
mine either, that's why I'm
um,
asking.
I would ask whether it would genuinely create a precedent for other private roads in that this isn't a new road that is being adopted. It is a correction of what I think was an error in the past in terms of where the road ends. So South County Line Road is already owned and maintained for the first 158 feet. This is not a wholly new, it's not out of whole cloth. This isn't a request that comes out of nowhere. It's that in the past, there was a determination as to where the end of the road is that does not coincide with the reality of the situation. And so this would be correcting that mistake of the past by recognizing the actual end of the road and not sort of this arbitrary point that's 158 feet from Tuar Avenue. So if somebody else came in and had a road that has no portion whatsoever owned and maintained by the county, that would be a different matter than this.
You're on the road committee. Yeah, okay. Phyllis, fill me in, I
And
don't
the
care.
county says don't touch it.
No, I understand
County Road
that,
Commission said that. And
but
they
if
want
they're
to
not
do our roads.
responsible, if they're not responsible for.
They do the work. We would have to pay the money,
Right,
yes. But they said it would set a precedent.
well, that's the reason, okay. Isn't the fact that they actually, because they do still take care of it. It's setting the precedent
Well,
that,
they didn't know they did, according to the road commissioner.
oh. But whoever
Yeah,
does the
probably
plowing.
the driver went on down through and turned around, because that's
Okay,
the
bad.
easiest way to get out.
It would be the easiest way to get out, as opposed to backing up or pulling into somebody's driveway. Okay,
And they don't do that, private drives.
so the whole issue really centers around precedent.
Well, and while I understand that they initially thought this might change precedent, I think they could very soundly argue that because the road is already owned and maintained in part by the county, this is not the same as some folks who would want them to adopt a new private drive, because part of the road is already owned and maintained. If there are other roads out there that are owned for 200 feet and not for another 150 or 200, then it might be a good precedent to set, frankly, because those may be errors that should also be corrected. But this isn't a scenario where there's a road that is in no form or fashion maintained by the county, and I'm here asking to do that. It's that the end point is incorrectly marked, I think, by any reasonable person, and that
This is
that
the same issue.
should be corrected.
Okay, no, I get what I get what Mr. Trotter's saying.
I do too. And I respect the argument that it's expensive and that it may not be in best interest for other reasons, but I think from the perspective of reasonableness for looking at any map or walking down the road yourself, and the fact that there's sort of this arbitrary endpoint for fairness and reasonableness, I think the correct end of the road should be recognized instead of sort of this arbitrary point where a sign's been slapped down. The road doesn't narrow, there's not a bend, there's not a fork. It's the same road, it's the same width all the way. It doesn't go down from 2 lanes to 1. You know, if you go out and look at it, you wouldn't know it was the end of the road unless
thank you. Appreciate the explanation.
Happy to answer other
Explanations.
questions, otherwise I.
Okay. Well, that's under items for actions. We have a motion. We have a second. We've had our discussion.
There's been no motion.
Oh, I thought the motion already been done. I thought you said, okay. Is there a motion?
There was a statement made, and George, who's the head of our committee, told you to go up to the county and get yourself a culvert permit. And if they give you a culvert permit, that would take care of it. If they would give you one, that would take care of the problem.
It would confirm right of way. It wouldn't solve the other issues with maintenance, or having to take potentially legal action.
Maintenance isn't
against
gonna
someone.
be taken care of anyway.
Sorry.
You're gonna have to get that road to be a county road.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
The county will not accept it, the road, as they're saying now. Maybe 10 years down the road, they might, I don't know. Can you, when you, at your edge of your property, is that at the edge of the road right away? 158 foot? Or you're down past the 158?
I'm past. Well, I would be. We're potentially closing out the property this week, so.
I'm just wondering about putting a driveway along the side of the road to get into your property.
Yep. And, you know, I haven't even purchased the property yet, so I'm not in a position to submit an application for driveway. Even once we potentially buy the property, we'll be building right away. So, I mean, I can revisit this issue in 2 years or whenever we might look at building. But even getting the permit for a driveway wouldn't resolve the issues with maintenance, or, you know, if a future owner on the north side stop maintaining.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do I understand you to say you're not gonna build right away?
I mean, it's a question of my personal finances to build my family home, but.
I don't wanna get into your finances.
Yeah, that's
but
what I'm.
Is it your plan to build right away, or wait 2 years like you just said?
We, again, sort of personal finance, I was planning to pay the property down for a little bit before I applied for a building loan.
Okay.
We're planning to build a single family home for myself, my wife, my kids. So we're not developers, we're not in that kind of business at all.
How many acres?
Just under 2.
Are you in a position where you would be able to offset the cost to bring the road up to county regulation?
I haven't gotten any quotes for paving that portion of the road, so
It's possible.
I have no idea what the cost would be. I mean, could there be a situation where after I own property there, I get together with whoever's on the east side of the land and we all get together and put some money in to pave it? Plausibly, I don't know the plan yet, so I'm in no position to try to rally people for something.
So your thought, trustee, is to have it paved and then have them pay the township?
No.
Oh, okay.
I
Or
think hypothetically,
priv-
if
No,
the
privately pave it. Is that what you're thinking?
folks came together, it might offset the cost of plowing and maintaining otherwise, and then once it was paved, hypothetically, the barriers toward adoption would be, is that what you're getting at?
Well, it's an easier sell, I think, to Bath Township residents.
Yep, that's right.
Whose tax money would go into solving this particular problem for a potential landowner in a different county who will potentially build at some.
Well, and I would just say that, you know, I'm not the one who said the road ended 158 feet in. It was somebody who was helping lay out where the road start and end that did that, and they I didn't create the problem, I'm just trying to help fix it.
Yeah, to be fair, the township and we didn't either.
No, I know you didn't.
No, I know, to be fair,
At
neither
some
of us
point-
have created the
yeah,
situation.
It's nobody in this room, obviously. I'm not trying to lay blame on you. At some point, somebody was responsible for determining where that road ends, and I don't know that they did it correctly based on the practical use of the property.
On the north side, you're looking to buy on the south end, okay? So on the north side, you have the sod farm, is that?
Sod
look at
Farm's
the map.
east.
So,
It's two private
so it's,
properties.
you have, oh, okay, so you have two private owners on a dirt road, right?
I believe there are at least two on the north side, at least two on the south side.
Okay.
The
That's-
materials
that's
from
what I was
last week, I
thinking.
think, show all the lots.
Is that?
Yeah,
That's
there's
not a
at
real good map
least
to me.
4.
Okay, so
There's at
it's
least
two on the south and
2 on the south,
north.
2 on the north, roughly.
Within
then
that
there's-
158 feet.
Right, and there's
After
more
that.
than 2 acres that are open on the south side to the east, correct? Or is that?
Right.
Correct.
I don't know if the.
Meridian Township owns the other large parcel.
Oh,
Just Meridian Township does, yeah.
Yeah.
At
The-
least according to the records.
So basically, you'd be looking at, because trustee Kellerman has the map, so basically what you're looking at is in front of your 2 acres that you're looking at. But what this is asking is the remainder of that, or the full remainder, the
See,
full
the-
150.
Well, they only are supposed to maintain it to here.
Here,
And there's
correct.
4 houses past that. So if this guy, it's the last house on the north, right, that maintains the road. Like, I maintain my road a lot too because it's so slow.
Right. So we'd be
But-
looking,
It's really, if they continue to maintain it, there's no big issue, is that but you're hoping that there's a reason that they continue to maintain it, not pave it. I mean, I live on a dirt road, I don't need to get it.
I grew up on a dirt road, like,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
But it's the maintenance that is not guaranteed after the private sign, if I understand it right.
after the 150.
Grading.
After the 158 feet.
Grading, plowing.
Right.
So the 2 acres that
Is here, it's
he's
past
looking
that.
at is past it.
Yes.
So we'd be looking at the full
Well,
road.
see, they go down here, this is their turnaround spot
Right.
here, so they plow it anyway, but they don't have to, they could, I don't know how, they could get their truck out any other way.
I don't either.
I'm with you.
And-
The grading is an issue, like, there's more to
That's-
maintain a road like that.
Right, eventually gravel or,
Right.
like my
Fill it
road,
or
they have to
whatever.
dump gravel on it every now and then, but I see the issue. It's,
That is not an easy one.
no.
That's why I'm here.
Is
And,
there-
you know, if you move to not adopt it, I understand that, and, you know,
No,
provided we
it's-
buy the property, maybe we come back sometime down the road in the future.
Because it isn't gonna go away.
Nope.
No.
It shouldn't go away. It's just off our plate at this point if we don't adopt it.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Which doesn't really help a whole lot. Okay.
It'll be on the record that we discussed it and that it was
No,
an issue.
that's. Okay. Do we have a motion? Thank you. Okay. I'm going to make sure that I understand any motion that's made, it's to not adopt, or it is to adopt. Is that correct?
I think so.
Thank
I can
you.
try to make a motion and see if it works. Test me. I make a motion, we do not adopt this private road as a county road.
South County Line Road.
South County Line Road, yes.
All right, so make sure, do you want me to repeat it, or you got it? Good. No, as I'm understanding what.
Say it one more time.
Yeah,
I make a motion that we do not adopt South County Line Road request to take it over as a roadway, as a public roadway.
this time.
Maybe is that at this time?
Yep.
I'll second it.
Mr. Fuensplus?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes, as long as it says at this time.
At this time.
Okay, got it. Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 13D. This is the fire chief employment agreement. And there doesn't seem to be, so do I have a motion? Because I want a discussion. So do we have a motion?
Could Karen walk us through the changes?
Oh, I'm sorry, it does have it.
Thank you. There are
Thank
two
Ryan.
changes to the actual document that I would like you to consider tonight, and asking for these agreements to all be very similar and to be consistent. I believe interim was left in mistakenly, so we would remove interim fire chief. He's not the interim fire chief, he is the fire chief until the end of this month or with the adoption of this agreement. In addition, the fire chief, and this was changed several years ago with my predecessor, Dan Waticha, that we knew most likely fire chiefs, at that time, Dan Oberst became our fire chief and was not looking to stay with us for 10 years to vest in our retirement plan. So they moved the position to a defined contribution instead of a defined benefit plan. In 3B, under pension, I mistakenly misunderstood that it's still 10% and not 11%. So that should be changed to reflect that. The township's contribution to the rest of the defined benefit plans increased a couple of years ago to 11%, and at the time I thought this one was included in that, and it is not. Additional changes.
Sorry, Karen,
Yes.
so you want it to be 10?
It should be 10.
Not 11.
Yep. Additional changes include the annualized salary of this position. Mr. Snyder and I negotiated a dollar amount that is more in line with what is similar to that being received in other communities. I will tell you, he's a very humble man and did not ask for much. The other thing he did ask for was a vehicle allowance in the amount of $100 for the use of his personal vehicle, which he does respond to many calls directly, so I believe that's a fair ask on his part. The only other change was vacation time, which moved from, I believe, 96 hours to 160 hours of vacation leave.
Is it normal termination for no reason? Is it the normal contract thing for?
It's contained in all of our contracts. We are all at-will employees. But those of us with contracts have stipulations. Usually if we're terminated for no reason, there's some type of buyout that accompanies that.
We can have a discussion at this point.
The 11%, if everybody else is getting 11, why isn't he getting 11?
That would have to be a change that would come before this board for you to vote on, as you did with the previous one. No, I would have to bring you paperwork from MERS in order to do that.
Well, then bring it back if this passes.
It would remain 10 until we did that. Okay,
Until we change it?
until you change, if you were to change it.
Why would
Everybody
we-
else is getting 11, right?
Right,
Does that have
so
any-
why wouldn't you do it now?
It would be a separate action through documents of MERS that I would bring back to you. We have a contract with MERS, the
Right.
Michigan Employee Retirement System.
Right.
So we would have to make that change effectuated through in agreement with them. And then we could modify his
So this
contract.
contract wouldn't modify that already at 11%?
There would still be an additional change that would need to be brought back to you. We can do that.
So-
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
certainly do that. I just am
Okay.
saying that until that time, it would remain 10.
So his is 10, everybody else is 11,
Mhm.
with MERS.
But I could bring that paperwork back to all of you for that change.
That's really odd, isn't it?
Mhm.
That is odd.
I thought we changed it when we changed the
So
rest of the
Oh,
employees.
you didn't change the fire department, or the fire chief?
He's the only one, this position is the only position in that category.
Huh. Any other thoughts? Trustee, please go ahead.
I know in the past, the chief has not had a set schedule. What's your intention with this agreement? Is it full-time, 40 hours? What might that look like?
He and I have discussed that and having a regular set schedule so people recognize when he's in the building and available to the public or to the employees, especially with having full-time employees. We'll work towards that.
Okay. So the understanding is full-time 40 hours? Is that what full-time is?
Previously, it was half-time, including the calls, it totals to more than 40 hours a week, but it was basically half the week in the office.
But now you're saying full-time.
I believe it's the same wording. Mr. Snyder's hours of work may vary and must be consistent with the performance of his duties as fire chief. He shall maintain reasonable hours on a Monday through Friday schedule if he responds to calls during nights and weekends as needed to maintain effective operations. There's also a recognition that he owns a business in addition to this, so.
But you didn't change that first line in 1. It says fulfill the duties of a full-time fire chief.
No, that's the way that it was in the previous contract.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you just said that it was half-time previously.
No, it was considered a full-time previously.
All right, stay on that 9.
Okay.
Supplemental employment. I'm not real sure when I read this, whether or not to negotiate a new supplemental employment, or if what he's already negotiated is intact.
I believe what he's negotiated is intact with your approval of this document.
So we wouldn't reword it to say that definitely does not need to renegotiate. So,
He's obtained prior approval, so from a previous superintendent,
Right.
so that, I believe that prior approval still stands.
but we don't know that for sure.
I can
'Cause as I
negotiate it with
read it-
him, but
I read it, and
it's-
it wasn't real clear
It's still.
whether he needs to negotiate a new supplemental. So can we just say, says, let's see, Mr. must obtain prior approval from the township superintendent before engaging in any supplemental employment. So could you just say in that sentence somewhere that it's very clear he doesn't need to have approval?
Is there something separate, or is this the approval that
This-
the contract is referring to?
This is the approval.
So by us approving this, we are thus approving functionally a new
You
approval.
recognize that he already has supplemental approval. Now, if he was
But it
looking to
doesn't say
be
new approval.
the chief in another township, in addition to Bath Township, that to me would be an additional supplemental approval that would need to be approved.
Because
It
it
says-
lists the issue.
We recognize that he currently has another position.
Is there a way to put that in there so that this prior approval, which doesn't really
It's
mean,
acknowledged, it says here. The township acknowledges Mr. Snyder's
Township
existing ownership
acknowledges.
and operation of Haslett Troop.
sure, they acknowledge that he
So
has.
that's in there.
I understand that, ownership and operation. But the parties agree that the irrespective of such ownership and operational control, his responsibility to the same must not discharge his duties as a fire chief. The superintendent has sole discretion to grant and revoke approval of supplemental employment at any time. So, as a superintendent, you can reject his supplemental employment. So what I'm saying is either strike that sentence, that last sentence, or put in it that it's very clear that he does not negotiate a new supplemental employment. So one or two. You strike the last sentence because you have the discretion, which means that regardless of what happens or what this says, you have the right to tell him yes or no, he has supplemental employment, regardless of what the paragraph states, that he has prior approval. Prior approval doesn't mean anything. The last sentence means everything, meaning you have the authority to tell him he can't do that.
Correct.
Right.
What I'm pointing out, though, is that if he tried to take on something else, is when we would have an issue.
No, it doesn't say something else. It just says the sole discretion to grant or recruit or revoke approval of supplemental employment. Doesn't say other supplemental employment. It states supplemental employment at any time. So what I'm saying is you either strike that last sentence or you put in that he has approval, even though you still can strike it.
I'm willing to do that if that.
I mean, that's,
He
prefer to
currently,
take
he
the
currently
last-
has the approval.
Right, but I prefer to take out the last sentence.
Marie, I think that last sentence protects us.
In
Because if
what
something
way?
changed in how the chief was interacting with his business, even though he has the approval, say he wasn't meeting standards, it allows Karen to revoke that permission to have a separate.
No, what this says, it allows her to revoke approval of supplemental employment.
Right, so if
What he
he was
has now
not,
is supplemental employment.
right, so if he
she
was
can
not,
revoke it.
if he was not performing, we would want her to revoke it.
he
Because
took
he
a-
would be spending more time at a different job rather than us.
If he
So it
took
gives
a,
her,
if he took a job at another fire station, say.
No, you don't understand something.
I
Yeah,
hear what you're saying,
okay.
but we need to combine the two to say
You
that
do.
Hazlet hardware is okay.
It is
Other
okay.
things are not okay, perhaps.
but Hazlet hardware is only okay in the form that it's being approved now. Because if he was not spending any time in the office, we would want her to
Correct.
have a conversation, but then ultimately have the power to revoke if it wasn't working for the township anymore.
So
If it's
no.
helpful, we have Helen Mills here
Oh,
from,
I'm sure. Hello, Lizzie, how are you?
and maybe she can clarify
You're
this
looking
for
much
us.
better.
Wow.
I'm hoping things are better.
Synthetic hair.
That's okay.
I was coming up here, thank you for recognizing me. I was going to say almost exactly what Trustee Stevens just mentioned, which is that line that you're referring to, that authority of the
understand
office
that.
of the superintendent to revoke or approve. We typically embed those types of lines in especially these high-level positions where, you know, in theory, you want those folks to give your full time and attention to your work, but if we are recognizing something else is available to them and they're engaged in it, it works for us until it doesn't, and this board needs the ability to say, hey, chief, we haven't seen you in 3 weeks, what's going on? We need your services here, you haven't been on scene. And if it's because of the conflict with the supplemental employment, that gives the office of the superintendent the ability to say, hey, this isn't working for us. And so I just wanted to make that clarification, if that's of any help, and I'm happy to take
No.
other questions.
No, I appreciate that, but that's not how I'm reading it. I'm reading it that she has the authority to grant and revoke approval of supplemental employment, meaning she could end up saying, no, I can't allow you to work at the Hazlet True Value Hardware.
She does have that authority.
Right.
And she's answerable
That's-
to this board if she exercises it inappropriately.
To this board?
Of course she is.
Okay. I'm still questioning whether or not that should be a point in here as to whether or not you can or cannot revoke. I mean, I understand as a point, as a safety, then I think at the top, it should say we have prior approval. If it says must obtain prior approval from the township superintendent before engaging in any supplemental employment. So engaging in supplemental employment, No,
Madam
I understand.
Supervisor. But my understanding, and having worked on that agreement previously and those of other positions here in the township, is that they typically also acknowledge the ongoing relationship that fire chief has in that same section. So from a legal perspective, I would advise you, I am comfortable for the township board to approve it as written, but certainly if there are clarifications that a majority of this board wishes to make, I'm sure we can work through those, and make those effective as soon as possible.
So in other words, it's saying, and I understand what you're saying, what this says, if he spends 20 hours at Hazlet through Value Hardware, then the superintendent has the right to say, that's too many hours.
She would have
So,
the right to
okay.
to direct his working hours, much like she does otherwise, because she's coming at it from the perspective of what service is he providing across the way here and making sure that he's doing that. So it's not
Okay.
how many hours did you log 20 hours and 3 minutes over at Hardware, it's are we getting from you, Mr. Fire Chief, what we are contracting for?
Right.
And that's the vantage point. And certainly, knowing the superintendent, she would contact our office to have a conversation before she did that. And if it was, the first time that happened, I would probably be saying to her, Madam Superintendent, I might say, let's have a conversation with the fire chief first before we go revoking any approval, because that's a significant action to take as an employee.
Oh, that would make all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
To include him in any discussion that has to do with the idea that he's not performing his job.
I'm suggesting that that conversation would take place well ahead of getting to the ultimate point of yanking approval.
Can that be put into the supplemental employment section then? That a conversation will, oh, I'm,
I don't know if anybody can speak or just start. I got a question.
technically no, but I don't care. Go right ahead.
Well, if you're talking about just leaving the superintendent with the authority that she can, if it doesn't work out, that she can say, okay, this doesn't work out. But isn't this whole thing based on the agreement that was at the employment to begin with? Don't you reserve the right that it would not be being performed as contracted, that you can dismiss for any reason at any time?
Oh, that's what they claim, yes. But that's the reality of that. Oh, I understand exactly. Because when I read it and reread it and reread it, a fourth time read it, was a question that I had with the supplemental employment. That there is the right to immediately say, no longer can you be supplemental employment. If that were the case, being our employee handbook doesn't apply because this contract is what it is that we're supposed to be following and what he has to follow.
So I would, with respect to a member of the audience, I would suggest that the idea of what the fire chief does or does not do with the supplemental employment is not the ultimate trigger as to whether he is employed here.
Correct.
And so what we're talking about is controlling the controllables. If the fire chief's employment elsewhere is interfering here, and we would still wish for him to be employed here, we just need to correct course. This provision allows the superintendent to correct course, have those discussions if needed, and again, if it gets to that point, revoking the authority to work elsewhere. That does not mean he's no longer employed here. He still has a contract and is working with you. He hasn't been let go as the fire chief. And he's still subject to all of the rules of your employee handbook unless and until those are conflicted out by the contract in front of you.
Right. Hold that thought. Sole discretion. Sole discretion. Not board discretion. Sole discretion. To grant and revoke the approval of supplemental employment at any time. So what this says is the superintendent has the authority to tell our fire chief that he cannot be employed supplemental employment.
That is correct.
Okay, that's,
Consistent with the
so it can
authorities
be
that
fired
managers
for
and
that
superintendents-
reason.
No, that's
Okay.
not what that says.
No, it doesn't.
He would be forced to either stop doing his work elsewhere, not here. This is not about whether he works across the way here. He would either need to reduce or eliminate his responsibilities over there to the satisfaction of the superintendent to get the service that you're asking for here, or he would be choosing to say, that's not the deal I struck. I want to be able to do what I'm doing in both places, and then that would be his decision. But the idea of her revoking approval for supplemental employment does not change that he is still your fire chief. The supplemental
Oh,
employment.
no, I understand that. No, I understand that. But she does have the authority to be able to tell him that I don't approve. And she has the authority to fire if I don't approve at will.
She
according
would have to
to-
follow the contract to
Right.
go through the appropriate
No,
process.
I understand that. Okay, anybody else? Because I have another, go ahead.
Oh, if you have a question, go ahead.
Oh, no, I have another point, so I don't have a question.
I'm gonna make a motion, so if you wanna go first, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay, you can make a motion because we'll have a discussion.
Okay.
Okay,
So I would move approval of the fire chief agreement as presented tonight with two changes, removing interim from the title and altering item 3, letter B, to read 10% rather than 11%.
Second.
all right, I have questions. We had 160 hours vacation. That wasn't included in the motion. Is that, okay, so that was something that,
It was 96.
yes, and it's supposed to be changed to 160.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Nope,
Yeah.
that's I've got. Yep. All right, page 2, for all of you who are following. Your performance evaluation. It appears to me, and this is only my question, and the superintendent can answer it, it appears that our police chief does not have a performance evaluation by your township superintendent, but the fire chief does.
They both do it.
So you're saying his contract says they both have performance evaluations. Is that correct?
I believe that the interim police chief did not have that provision written in it, but I believe when the police chief contract comes to you, it will have a performance evaluation in it.
So we don't see that. That's only when it comes.
No, the
Okay.
contract, because it was an
Right.
interim contract for less than
Correct.
6 months, it did not have that provision in it at the time you saw it and voted on it
So you're
previously.
saying that
When
when
the-
we get the
Yes.
contract,
It will
a
have that provision
performance
in there.
evalu-
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
It was only because the other one was temporary, interim.
No, I understand that. I understand what interim means. That's
I
why I
know,
was a
I was
little
just-
surprised
yeah, no.
with that. But
Thank you.
what you're saying, it's, I'm understanding it, so publicly we know that when we get the police chief's new contract, it's gonna have a performance evaluation in it.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. A provision for it. He's only been the interim police chief for 6 months. It will have the provision.
No, we voted after 67 days for him to become chief.
We didn't.
We didn't?
You haven't done that
We
yet.
voted to allow her
You-
to negotiate the contract.
to
That
come,
would
the
do that
contract will
ultimately.
come back to you.
So you're telling me that when you voted, that was voted for a contract, not for,
No, it was for me to move forward with drafting a contract for him that will come back to you for
sounds good.
review and
Okay.
approval.
So he's still an interim,
Correct.
even though our sheet for
Yes, the
inside
phone, for the
says chief.
the phone sheet says police chief, that's
Right.
correct.
Shouldn't it say interim police chief?
He's doing the job of police chief at this time, so the internal phone sheet says police chief. I
But he's
understand what
still
you're
an
saying.
okay,
He's still,
'cause
he
it's
is.
a semantics thing.
He still is
He's
interim, he still is interim
Even though it
police
says
chief.
chief.
Mhm.
So what,
Contractually, he is your interim chief.
okay. But our internal phone says he's chief, not interim.
Correct.
Okay.
But the contract that he's currently working under is interim police chief.
Because we're waiting for you to finish negotiations for his,
I will, yes.
Chief
For his chief
position.
contract, correct.
okay. Vehicle allowance, quick question, you can answer this one.
Mm-hmm.
Both chiefs have a $100 stipend, okay? However, the police chief contract gives sole discretion to the superintendent, sole discretion to authorize our police chief to receive a township vehicle.
Correct.
Okay, so will that also be in his contract? Because shouldn't our fire chief, even though he has a fire vehicle, is that a township vehicle?
He uses his own personal vehicle.
Right.
When he responds.
So what I'm
Most
saying
generally.
is, so the new contract that you're negotiating, because you have the sole discretion.
Will most likely say that he will receive that stipend for his own vehicle.
Oh, no, I understand, for the chief, for our police officer. Our
Correct.
Police chief.
Police chief.
Okay, so we're gonna take out any language that deals with a
Providing.
township vehicle. Okay. Is that correct?
Even
So
though on a
he'll-
daily basis, he could use a township vehicle.
Of course.
But
But you have the sole authority to authorize your police chief to receive a township vehicle, but you don't have it for our fire, okay. So you're saying the new contract that's coming will not
will
have
be
that language in
consistent
it?
with this.
All right. Now, I want to double check something. Page 3, B, when it says cause, when you look at 6 and 14, 6 says the failure to respond to the legal and lawful request of the township supervisor, or the superintendent, sorry.
What page was that? I'm sorry.
It's page 3,
3? Okay.
item 6. It says failure to respond to the legal and lawful request of your township superintendent. That's a reason, so that's like an insubordination.
Correct.
Okay. So if he's insubordinate, wouldn't it be better off to say that, just insubordination?
I think it's better to say legal and lawful, because there could be things that I might ask him to do that might be, not be, I wouldn't, but
No, I
you want them to be legal and lawful requests. I can't ask him to go wash my car and then fire him because he didn't wash my car. It would be like to provide reports, state reports on time, or to do other things in a timely fashion, but legal and lawful.
Okay. Huh. And 14, where it says illegal activity on township property during the work hours or non-work hours. What is an illegal activity?
Selling drugs.
Besides selling drugs, that's illegal. That's illegal for you to do. So, well, we don't have a contract. So, I don't know what an illegal activity would be.
Drinking on the property,
But you already
operating
have.
intoxicated. I don't know what other
Yeah,
ones
you already have
additional
that.
ones would be, but
Anything that is against the
Law.
law, isn't that a fair read of that?
Yeah.
Illegal activity on township.
He
So-
can be illegal at home and we can't fire him, but he can't do it on township property.
Illegal activity on township premise during work. Okay,
don't do anything.
okay, nope. I think that was what my questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Any other discussion? Shoot.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
No.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Fuensplus?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good luck, Chief. Okay. New business. Item 14, or section 14, whichever you want to call it. B is, or A says introduction for discussion. Zoning ordinance. I was gonna say, don't go too far.
All right. So what the board has in front of them tonight with this item is amendments to several different zoning articles, which are located in chapter 31, as well as some amendments to article 1 and 2 of chapter 68. There's a series of amendments we're looking at doing tonight. This is kind of my office and planning commission's first try at doing a series of changes in bulk instead of bringing each article individually. We're trying to bring several at once just to expedite things and move things along. On page 32 of your packet is a 3-page memo detailing the proposed changes tonight and their subsequent effects on those articles. basically, I would put the changes into 3 buckets. So, we had a slew of changes that we're looking at doing this year. At the beginning of the year, we took out all the changes that wouldn't affect the implementation or the interpretation of the ordinance, things that are just creating clarity, updating there was a couple of spelling errors that needed to be corrected, a couple of formatting errors that needed to be corrected, and there's changes for organizational purposes. And then, so first bucket is just creating clarity, second bucket is creating organization, and the third bucket of changes, I would say, is creating consistency with how the ordinance has been interpreted and applied in the past, and how the language will currently read to reflect those. So I worked closely with our zoning administrator, Bert Gale, we had a series of discussions saying, well, hey, in this situation, how is this interpreted? If the language read like this, would that make it clearer for how that interpretation will be applied? So that's that. So going back to earlier in the year, we looked at all the ordinances on our docket. We took out everything that would be kind of a fundamental change to how the ordinance is interpreted, and we went with the low-hanging fruit first for things that are, spelling errors, formatting, and clarity. So that's what's before you tonight. The articles that we're looking at here are Article 3, Article 6, Article 8, Article 15, Article 17, Article 20, and Article 21 of Chapter 31, and Articles 1 and 2 of Chapter 68. If there's any questions or anything you want me to answer in more detail, please let me know.
Of course, yeah. But I should ask, anybody else have questions? Okay. My question to you, does this change Bert Gale's authority, our zoning administrator?
No.
Okay, that's, because I was looking and I thought I saw where the planning commission gave him, or maybe it was ZBA. Is ZBA gonna be a less?
Oh, there was a change to how, I believe I know the one you're talking about. There was a change to how, when you're interpreting parking standards, so let's say you have a land use, we have a table within the zoning ordinance that says, for this land use, you shall require this minimum parking. For this land use, require X minimum parking. So right now, if that land use is not specifically called out in that table, the township would have that go to the Board of Zoning Appeals to make a determination of what land use most closely aligns with what's being proposed, and then pigeonhole what that minimum requirement into that land use. Now, functionally, in the past, in pre-application meetings or in interpreting the ordinance as it relates to residential uses, Bert Gale has always made that call. And in most municipalities, it would just be a determination by the zoning administrator. It's quite odd that it was worded that it would go to the Board of Zoning Appeals to make a determination for ordinance interpretation. Usually you go to the Board of Zoning Appeals because you're appealing
Right.
a determination. So it was oddly worded, functionally inconsistent with how a municipality would typically operate.
So instead of going to the zoning board, it will now go,
Bert Gale would make a determination. He
okay.
would pigeonhole whatever land use isn't specifically called out to whatever land use they most closely operate. So let's say somebody was proposing a golf course, well then the land use that it would most closely reflect would be a recreational center. As you can imagine, it was hard to create a table that specifically calls out every land use in existence. There's been, if not infinite.
these are major, major changes.
It's the view of my office and the planning commission that all these changes don't affect the function of the zoning ordinance at all. It's mostly spelling and organization. Like a lot of the changes going on is a definition is being moved into the definition section, being moved into chapter 68.
Okay.
We're not creating anything new.
So this laundry list that you have in front of us, the official memorandum, all of these changes, whether it be for Bert Gale or is spelling?
Some of them are spelling, so like the
There's a
word
lot.
lightning was misspelled
Okay.
like 3 times in the ordinance. So, in 3 separate articles, so we had to correct that.
No, I understand that.
And it, just for efficiency's sake, this is our first try at bringing this in bulk, instead of bringing you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different ordinance amendments.
Right.
In 9 different meetings.
We're supposed to know and read all of these.
Yeah,
to
that's
know
why
what
we
they
attached
are.
the 3-page memo to try to explain it,
Yeah.
and we included a red line copy showing the
Yeah.
changes and a clean copy.
Yes, you did, which is, there's some major changes in here.
And this is the introduction as well, so not seeking action.
No,
So if
I
anyone has
understand
any
that.
question about the changes, obviously we'll make ourselves as available as possible in the next 2-week period to go over it line item by line item with anyone.
'Cause it is
Including
hard-
members of the public that have any questions about these changes.
Yes,
No,
well,
I-
you'd have to print off a copy from the packet in order to do that, right?
Or they could.
Or
log on a
come up
computer.
here and get it? Okay, can they do that?
They're online,
At their cost for printing and for paper?
or they could,
Yeah,
they can
that's,
read it on a computer.
okay, that's what I, because there are some major changes in here, not just minor spelling, grammar, and wording corrections. And that's the part that, so, no, I do understand this introduction.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to be 14B, which says items for action. So now you're gonna have resolutions. Actually, this doesn't say for anybody to do, but I have a question for the treasurer, so.
Thank you. We have Robert Benzinski with us tonight,
Good.
who's our municipal finance advisor, and I'd invite him to the podium to speak
Well,
on
that's a
this
nice
issue.
looking code.
Good evening. I am, as Madam Superintendent indicated, Bobby Benzinski from Benzinski and Company. We worked with the township for several years. I might have had black hair when they started. I don't remember. You sold bonds in 2013 for infrastructure. Those bonds currently carry interest rates of 4% to 4.75%. There's $2,085,000 outstanding at this point. The township has an opportunity to refinance those bonds. In the municipal bond world, we call it refund, but it's not a refund. You can't go to a local store and get your money back. It's the term they use. Your bond attorney, Miller Canfield, has provided you with a bond authorizing resolution, which allows the municipal advisor, Benzinski and Company, to make a recommendation to accept a bid. Robert W. Baird will be acting as placement agent in this resolution. They will go out and find a bidder to buy the bonds at a low interest rate. We will bring that back to the superintendent and the treasurer in accordance with this resolution. Interest rates move very much like the stock market on a daily basis, minute by minute. When we first showed you this, I gotta get my email up here. We showed you a savings amount in excess of 100,000 after paying all the cost of the refinancing. We met in March with the superintendent and the treasurer. Those savings had gone down because of the market conditions to just over 57,000. I got an updated number this morning. That number is back to close to the $100,000 number. It's at $95,000 after paying all the cost of refinancing. We are not extending the maturities on this bond issue, so the final maturity will coincide with the original bond issue, which was 2038. As I indicated earlier, the bonds that are outstanding carry interest rates of 4.05%. adopt this resolution, as I indicated, it gives the superintendent and the treasurer the ability to authorize us to go ahead and move forward with a purchaser and then bring a purchase contract back to either the superintendent or the treasurer for their approval. We would not bring a proposal back to you that doesn't generate at least 3% savings, which would be probably in the neighborhood of about $65,000. So if you adopt this resolution, there is no further action by the Township Board of Trustees. And again, this is very common how it's done in the state of Michigan, and it is also common in a refinancing that you provide flexibility because the markets do move constantly. Any questions, concerns?
Flexibility. Explain that. Just,
As the market moves,
right?
the bidders, or Robert W. Baird will go out and they'll solicit or talk to investors. And then one day they may say, well, we want, 4%. That doesn't provide a saving. 3 days later, the market could change, and they come back, or they could go to the same purchaser and say, would you be willing to take 3.5%? And they say yes, then we can move forward.
So
But if we had to wait to come to your next board meeting,
Right.
we could lose that.
So we're authorizing you the flexibility to be able to do that.
Yes, and then bring the offer from a financial institution back to the superintendent and or the treasurer. And again, we do it 2 people in case somebody's on vacation, somebody's ill, out of town for some unknown reason.
So that time frame that you're talking about, coming back to the superintendent, coming back to the treasurer, is different than the time frame that you're talking with flexibility. In other words, how do I say this? By the time you get the okay for this, times it's changed, the interest rate changed.
If this is approved tonight,
Okay,
we will tell Robert W. Baird to seek an investor or a purchaser of the bonds to pay off the 2013 A bonds, and then you will start paying debt service on the new bonds. So they may, tomorrow's Tuesday, they might come to me Thursday
okay,
and say, we have a bidder that's willing to pay 3.5%. That savings is gonna produce close to in excess of $95,000. We're gonna say, go with it. So then Miller Campfield would prepare a sale order that day, get it to the superintendent or the
which we have
treasurer,
to sign it.
and say, with our recommendation, we'd say, here's the offer, these are your savings, here's your numbers, do you wanna accept this? And of course, we would say yes, because it's
Sure.
a large amount of money. If, it may be next week, just depends, and that's the flexibility I'm talking
Right.
about.
Because I guess I'm looking at time between signing it and not signing it.
But it would be signed the same day.
It would, and that's what you're saying, which is exactly what I would think you have to do. Okay. And then your redemption dates here are bonds that we're looking at.
Sorry, what are you looking at?
Well, page 7 of, oops, sorry about that. Where it says your form of the bond to be completed after the bond sale.
That's the form of the bond, it's a form, it will be filled in. Given the fact that these bonds are out to 2038,
Right,
there will probably be prior redemption, meaning that you can call them in advance, probably starting in 2032 or 33, because they're out to 2038.
right.
If there's a purchaser that says they don't wanna call them, or they don't want a redemption, they will probably give us a lower interest rate. But a 10-year call is common, and again, that's why you're able to refinance these bonds. You issued them in 2013, they had a 10-year call, where in 2023, they can be refinanced.
We're looking to refinanced at a lower interest rate.
Yes.
Okay.
And the numbers that I'm talking about, savings, represent after paying all of the cost. And as I indicated, you're not changing this from a 2038 maturity to a 2048 maturity. You're staying in line with the maturities that were in the 2013 ones.
Gotcha. So you're not asking for additional funds, only the funds that we have in 2013?
No, it's the, as I indicated, there are $2,085,000 of bonds outstanding. We anticipate, based on the numbers that I received today, that the refinancing amount, including all the cost of issuance, the new bond issue would be in the amount of $2,150,000. That covers all of the cost of refinancing. And when you compare the debt service on the $2,150,000 to the $2,085,000 bonds outstanding, you achieve approximately $95,000 savings in this scenario.
Can you tell us what the cost of refinancing is, just out of
About
curiosity?
$57,000.
That's what okay. And that 57,000 goes to,
Goes to
To-
your bond counsel, Miller Campfield, Benzinski and Company, Robert W. Baird as placement agent, Michigan Department of Treasury gets their fee.
sure,
Okay.
okay. Nope, that's what I'm curious as to where this 57,000 goes. Okay. Thank you, we're very patient.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No, I'm usually the only one, so. But thank you, that's appreciated. All right. Do we have a motion for the resolution?
I motion that we approve the resolution authorizing insurance of and sales of general obligation limited tax refunding bonds series 2023.
Second.
Ms. Fuller Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we have a resolution, looks like, under 14B, items for action, second resolution. Superintendent Hildebrandt, dealing with gaming license.
Thank you. We, last year, if this seems familiar to you, it's because we undertook this last year for the Greater Lansing Food Bank. They have a charitable event every year that raises money for the Greater Lansing Food Bank and supports 7 different counties in the area. In order to do that, they need basically a certification from the township that they are in fact a charitable nonprofit organization, so they can apply for the license from the state.
I have a question, so do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution in support of a charitable gaming license for the Greater Lansing Food Bank.
Second.
Okay, my question, this is only an observation, so I definitely support what's here, because I've been to their fundraisers and they're really cool. But this is gonna be off topic, I'm sure. I don't understand the support for this, but not support for the senior center in their bingo. Just trying to figure that out. Yes, we're supporting this, which I absolutely do, but we don't support the bingo, because it's gambling. So just help out.
So this is not a division or department of the township?
I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's mainly,
So,
mainly where that lies, is that
okay,
the And I don't know what you mean by we don't support bingo.
They don't play for money,
Correct.
they play for
The-
prizes?
Yes, but the bigger issue there was fighting over the money.
Oh, okay. So,
The
in
games,
here, we don't
the
have,
the games
obviously.
that had money were having a great deal of fighting going on over them and complaints about the
Okay.
money.
So we're saying there's too much fighting, okay. Okay, nope, I was just trying to figure out, because we're supporting this, but we don't support within our township. And that's, so what you're saying is, because it's within the township, we don't support, but outside we do.
Yeah, this isn't,
Okay.
I mean, this isn't under our control, it's just,
Well, sure, it's under your control, that's why it's here.
we're just basically
could-
saying they are in fact a nonprofit operating within
Right.
our township.
And that we're recommending that they obtain a charitable gaming license. So if we said no, we would have a really hard time doing that.
Correct.
But I hope we wouldn't say no, because they're really good. But that's all, that's what I needed, was clarification with the senior, because here we're supporting a charitable gaming, but in our own, we don't. Okay, nope, that helps. So we have a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes.
Okay, very cool. You do a good job. Oh, hang on. Clinton County Road Commission overband crack fill, go ahead.
Thank you. What you have in your packet tonight is an agreement for improvements on Clinton County roads for an estimated project cost of $29,999.10. We had previously estimated the overband crack fill amount that would be needed this year at $30,000. Obviously, it's 90 cents cheaper than that. And I bring this to you for your approval so that we can move forward with projects this spring.
Second.
And I have a question.
Please.
I have to understand, they're dropping the price, correct, by 90 cents? What the hell, what's 90 cents got to do with?
What was it estimated?
So they're estimating 90 cents
They
less.
estimate, yeah, they estimated 30 grand, so, yeah.
Okay, so now we're estimating 29.99.
We're signing,
Yeah.
when we sign the contract, correct, it would be
Did
for.
we sign the contract for the 30? It's like-
No, that was an estimate they
That was-
provided to us.
Right, so now this is not an
Earlier this
estimated-
year.
This says estimated project cost,
Mhm.
29,999.10. So this is another estimate.
Correct.
So this estimate could go down.
Hopefully,
Yeah, I know.
I would
So-
love that.
I would too. So 90 cents difference from one contract to this contract.
It wasn't a contract, it was just an estimate they provided to us earlier this year.
And this is what this is.
Correct,
Okay.
but this
So-
is actually the contract we would sign, and
Okay, so if,
actually projects do come in cheaper at times.
so this is what we're gonna pay them as an estimate, but hopefully the project will cost less, like 25,000.
Correct,
Not that it will, but,
you're correct.
okay. But they understand that this is an estimate. Just like the other, okay. Thank you.
Al made the motion, are we gonna support? Ryan, okay, thank you. Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think we're on item 15, which deals with the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I'll first address the item that was brought up by trustee Kellerman, and I apologize to you. We did change the front door locks. That has not been done in several years, at least during my time. It was a discussion between myself and the treasurer, as she is the key holder for the township, and she has a list of those that have keys in the township. You should have been notified, and I apologize that you were not notified that the keys changed. We've been trying to make a concerted effort to notify those people that the keys had changed and that they needed to get a new key. Obviously, there are some people that we don't see as frequently, and that would be, and I'm not saying that as a dig towards you, but there are people that work in our building department that we don't see quite as frequently. And we have not contacted them to get a new key yet, so I apologize for
None
that.
of our board, you guys all, nobody has a key, nobody's been notified, no phone call, no email, no nothing, we didn't know, so you guys, nobody tried to get in there?
I knew they were changed.
You what?
I knew they were changed.
I didn't,
But did we get you a key yet?
but I didn't even know. Nobody even called me, nobody let me know, and I feel like I'm maybe the only one that's so.
No, I
You
don't
know-
have
you
a
knew,
key, and I,
but you knew,
no, I did not know.
you did not know,
This is the first time hearing of it.
so you never try to go in there on the weekends. See, I couldn't, I just picked this up today because I tried Saturday and Sunday, it was like,
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You read the motion. My keys don't work because I'm not allowed in the building. And it was supposed to be Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. And I was told Tuesday night that I couldn't do that.
It was as of midnight, actually.
That's right, well, okay, midnight, Tuesday. So, you knew, everybody knew.
I did not know, Marie. This is the first time
I didn't
hearing
know.
that we had new keys and that our keys didn't access the building.
How can you possibly sit there and say that when you all were sitting here and you all knew? I was told by the law enforcement,
The motion
That
was
my
to remove your
key-
physical office from the space, not
no,
to
that I
rekey the
can't
building.
get in.
Marie,
I
I made the motion.
Yes,
I'm telling
and
you
I
what
was
it
told,
I appreciate that you were told that. I'm telling you the motion that I made. It was not to take anybody's keys away or to
all
change
you're
it.
saying is nobody here knew.
So we've tried to work with each person that has a meeting in the building, and I'm sorry that you did not get a new key yet.
I just, even if I knew, I wouldn't have shown up and tried to drove from South Lansing
I
to
understand
try to
that,
get in the.
and I'm sorry
It's
for
like,
that.
no. And it seems like that should have been a
It
board
was a-
decision,
It was a
In my
misstep
mind.
on our part,
It was
but
a board decision.
huh? Should have been. Not to change a key was not a board decision, because
They had-
we didn't
oh,
even
I
know
see
about
what
it.
you're saying.
And that seems
So-
like something that important should be brought before the board.
To change keys in the building?
Yes.
For the safety of the people who work here?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't have done what I did and drove all the way over there to get paperwork for a building that I'm supposed to be able to get into. How do they get in the mornings for the work? the
Most of
office?
us have new keys because we're here on a daily basis. That's why we haven't gotten everybody, so most of you
Well, an
here
email or a
have
phone
them.
call would have been very much
Well, like Karen
appreciated.
said, she
I
apologized.
misstepped, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
As for Park Lake Road, I appreciate Judy bringing up the safety of Park Lake Road. That was a major topic when we met with the Clinton County Road Commission. And they have offered to include us in the walkthrough that you'll be doing in the spring, so that we can all walk. It is the township's commitment to make that corridor a safer place, because we are attracting a lot of families to that area, with Wiswasser Park, with the beach, and with the boat launch. So I look forward to doing that with you and seeing what we can do to make that a safer area. You're welcome. I also will work with Judy on the support of the Friends of Park Lake events that you have, and we'll work with you on insurance and the equipment that you need, just like we have in previous years. So that'll come before the board probably at our next meeting, so you can have those answers. As I mentioned, we met with the Clinton County Road Commission for our annual meeting. They are concerned with the rising costs of materials to take care of our roads. They recognize that most areas are trying to do more with less, and things are more expensive. So We talked about the ratings of the roads in this area and where our concentration would be. Obviously, in 2024, we're gonna work to mill and fill Webster Road, so that'll be our main project next year. But I can share all that data out with you. The PACER ratings are the current condition of the roads that we have here in our township, and we have worked hard over the last several years to improve the condition of the roads. And that's something they very much appreciate, and we don't have as many that are in dire straits as they were previously, so we'll continue that work with your support. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. I will make one more note, because I didn't write it down, but we will work on the YouTube videos, so that we can work to understand what you're seeing and what is hidden, but there really shouldn't be anything that's hidden there, and it should all be public. So we will work on that. I appreciate that.
They told us that we were supposed to get $95,000 from the county towards our roads.
For cost share, correct.
For cost, and they used the census for this year, and it's gonna be 105.
So good news for Bath Township, we increased about $10,000 in the amount that we received from Act 51 money from the state.
Do you have any information on what Dwight shared today about the Comcast in southern Clinton County having their own grant opportunity? I hadn't heard that before.
Some to share with you, they're making their own investment to expand their business. I know that because they came to the township and requested our support. They are supposed to be tagging doors in the township to let people know when work is going to be done. So people in this area will have other options. They're applying for Robin grant money outside of the Frontier project. So they're unsure at this point if they'll be receiving any funding from that grant.
But that grant would include portions of Bath Township?
That would.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
No other questions? All right, we'll go to public statement 2. Item 16.
You know, I'm sorry, Rick Curtis, Park Lake Road. The recent events that have been going on is the 2-ton elephant in the room. I'm sure it's left Marie feeling like she's out there on an island. And I can understand that completely. They tried to recall our board 5 times. That was so much fun. It was all you could think of was the recall crap. All over, not saying the Pledge of Allegiance in our first meeting. How ridiculous can you be? So the charges that have been levied against Marie, I don't want to go into that too deep. I haven't taken a side on it, but I want to tell you guys, I think you've handled this totally improperly. Now, I published an email on Facebook that was from Ryan to all the other board members at the time, and it left Marie out of it. It had 8 different ways that you guys could handle this situation. So that's deliberation. That is also in violation, because it's a quorum, it's in violation of the Open Meetings Act, whether they respond or not. The same thing as if Ryan tells Al and Al says something to Brenda, and Brenda goes to Jennifer, and Jennifer goes to Cheryl. That's called a round robin meeting. I knew Ryan was very unhappy about that. And I knew he would be. And I don't care because you did something wrong. When I raised my hand in 2008 and I swore an oath to this township, there was no expiration date on that oath. I'm going to do what's right for the township, what I feel is right for the township to the best of my ability, and that is to wash out people, if I can, who are harming our township. The reason I know that it drove him crazy was I published it about noon on a week ago Friday, and just a few hours later, he went to the person that it came from. He was the originator. He had sent it to this other person, and he told her that he backtracked through the township where it came and how it got to me. So that is another violation. This was about, well, you can take it two ways. It was either about him personally, or it was about the case which he shouldn't have been spreading that kind of stuff on. It was basically a conspiracy to get Marie out of this office. There's no other way to see that. He admits it. He admits it right in the email. So I don't know how he tracked it down so quick, but my assumption is he called up you or Superintendent Karen or someone else at the township and had them track it down for him. When I FOIA an email, it takes me 10 days to get it. But he had that information in just a few hours. I'd be pretty worried about it too, and I probably would have been tracking it down too. Shame on you guys. Shame on the trustees for not telling him you're in violation of the Open Meetings Act.
All right, do we have any other takers for public comments?
Cindy Cronk, Webster Road, former township trustee for 2 terms, planning commission, zoning board of appeals for 12 years, senior services advisory board, elections commission. This is the last place I want to be. But I'm here because of what I'm seeing going on in this township. The way that you folks handled the issue with Marie being in the office was ridiculous. The appropriate way to handle it would have been to contact her and say, hey, we're in litigation. It's for your protection and our protection. Would you voluntarily not come into the office during this time? Now, I don't think that happened. Instead, we have a closed meeting called by Jennifer and Ryan with her excluded, and then you come back in here and you present it to her in a public forum. That is absolutely disrespectful and inappropriate. And you have to live with those actions, and they're going to bite you right where you sit. Every one of you. I agree that she shouldn't be in the office during litigation. I'm not opposing that at all. It's the process that was used and led by the same person who's trying to get her ousted back in August when nothing was going on at that time except for an investigation. And also, all I hear continually is the misfunction in this office. How people in this office, this board has given up so much of their power to staff. And sitting here tonight about the key issue, and Jennifer thinking, you don't need board permission, you just change the locks. It has gotten to the point where what she has seen since she's been working here leads her to believe that to be true. And it's not true. This board needs to take their power back, and they need to do their jobs. And I have a whole list of things, but I'm not going to share them tonight. But I will be back, and I will be at your meetings, even though this is the last place I ever want to be again. But I will be. I'm back. I warned you a year ago.
guardian. I'm speaking as a private citizen tonight. I just want to remind us about things that are important. And in thinking about what happened last week, I just want us to dwell on what I feel are important traits of good character. Good character requires trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and good citizenship. These are so important as we move forward. I think this is going to be a really difficult time. I really would encourage you to look at your personnel handbook and make sure you have a way to solve disputes internally before you take external action. I, 2 weeks ago, asked you to think about developing a strategic plan so you have a plan for moving forward. You have probably another 18 months in office. The CIP is coming up, and how can a community group or an individual or someone within the township write a CIP application without a strategic plan in which we address the goals and objectives that you're trying to meet in your elected time while you're serving here? You're representing me, you're representing us, and we have to move together. We have to move forward together. And in order to do that, we have to agree on a plan, and the plan should talk about activities and development and actions that you want to take to make the community better. So I'm just going to leave these with you so you can be reminded of them as you move forward, because I think they're pretty important characteristics that all of us should keep in mind as we proceed through the next few years. So thank you.
Hi, Gabrielle. Since day one of this group together, there's been a lot of chaos to the point where I've turned the meetings off. It's painful to sit through and watch. I can't imagine it's comfortable for any of you to sit through that. I think at the end of the day, I like a lot of what Judy said, but there's business, right, that needs to be done, and personal feelings, and the way that you feel about somebody, and disrespect, and being unkind. Like, these are not things that can be tolerated. That's not why people were elected to sit here. At the end of the day, you have an obligation to the people, to the law, even if you think you can get away with not following it. I think it's important to focus on the fact that Judy said a word, serving. You are, in essence, representatives of the people. You are serving us, and I feel like a lot's gotten lost in the bickering and the back and forth and who likes who and who doesn't. Like, even as much as not being willing to take a handout, I just, I feel like that's just the epitome of the disrespect that I see amongst this board. And it's disappointing as the people. I think that we should want to be a part of the same community. We're all on the same team. So I would just ask that everybody could maybe put some of their personal differences aside and try to act like we're all on the same team. I don't mean to talk to you guys with disrespect, and I'm sure it probably comes across that way. But at the end of the day, I just want to win for Beth. Beth is the focal point, and if we can keep it there, I think we have some really talented people that can do some great things, and our differences is what makes us powerful. So if we can harvest that instead of coming at each other, I think that it'd be a win for everyone.
All right, is there anybody else?
Might as well jump on board.
There you go.
George Baker, State Road. I just wanted to speak to the gentleman on South County Line Road that spoke about to get that road done. I hope he understands that it's not personal, that there's a budget and there's only so much money. Our township now spends more money than it ever has. Our committee is so grateful for all the previous boards that have served our township, and the board that's currently here serving our township that makes the police and fire and roads kind of a priority in our township, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm thankful for the county that worked so diligently to do their due diligence for us. That road does have a standard, and for it to be picked up, I don't think it's the township's responsibility to do that. If there's a big development that comes forward, then I can see that happening personally, them picking up the bill for it, but it's a small portion. We have, Drumhill Road here that police and fire use, we can't pave. We have other projects we can't do on our budget that I'm sure you guys seen some of the things before you this year even that we could not accomplish, that we would like to do, and we can't because we don't have the money. And if we can't take care of what we already have, I don't think we should be doing anything new. That's just my opinion. So I appreciate all the work that's being done for our township, and I appreciate the boards, like I say, that provide that to happen. Also, I wanted to speak about the ordinances before you. Them are just to clear up when developers come in, the language reads a little better. The document itself, the documents are not changed in so much as the meaning and function of the document. It's just the definitions that are in one place should be put maybe with definitions. So it's just cleaning up them ordinances. Thank you all.
Thank you, George. Is there anybody else? All right. Board member comments?
I have something short, simple, and easy.
Short, simple, and easy.
I think so.
Okay.
I know there's a key issue, but I'm trying to get some information for the senior center expansion that we talked about. The first thing was Cater Engineering with the CAD reports that we were looking for. I tried several phone numbers, emails, etc. They are kaput. So I am unable to find the CAD things that we need. Second part of this is also very simple, if the keys are simple, that I think I have a friend that can look at the heating and air conditioning, which is very expensive part of the expansion. I suspect that we don't have the capacity, the BTUs or Sears to heat and cool that much more room. I suspect I can get a person in there, but I don't know what minute to have you come and unlock the door. So I would like to have temporary custody of a key so that I can let my engineer person in there. And like I say, maybe if he gets a job, if his bid is good, he'll do it free. I suspect, I hope. But I need access.
Is it the same engineer we're working with on the center?
She was referring, sorry, but she was referring to the work that Terry Baker had done when we expanded the kitchen.
Okay.
That's the first part of this, the CAD
Okay.
report.
I think he passed away.
Right.
So I think that's,
Company's gone.
yeah, because I think he was the sole proprietor of that
Okay,
company.
that makes sense. There was a new phone number
We
and
we
new
have
address.
we have drawing, we have some things on file that
But they're
we
not
can probably,
complete enough. We had them.
okay.
And they were like chopped out of the middle,
Mhm.
and we,
Karen, Miles and I talked about, and you and I talked about a site plan that is available, and there wasn't a site plan for this development, but you were working on that this year.
Yes.
So what we had was a copy of a print from a long time ago, that we were looking at, and it only showed a small section of that, and we were
Okay.
looking for the CAD report that we could maybe get the entire print to see. So that we could just have them dump in the parking spots based on the expected expansion we were trying to do, so that we didn't have to recreate anything.
Okay.
So
Right.
we were looking at the original people that created that
Right.
site plan, were gone.
Okay.
And Sherry stated that it's not available, they're not in business anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know when this area is gonna be, if there's not a site plan, it's gonna be built?
So the surveys that we have undertaken for this year probably will take place in the spring to the summer. Because we were looking at surveying campus. we'll work to see what we have. It may not be electronic, but we'll give you everything we have.
Okay.
And I plan to meet with Matt, so hopefully I can work through some of those things with him as well.
So shall I go ahead with the heat and air to get an idea of what we need for that, for cost?
I haven't met with the engineer yet, so I don't know what, I understand, but I'm saying like this board hasn't committed to expanding the senior center, so I don't.
But that's a part of the whole cost is gonna be heat and air. And I can probably get it super cheap to get.
We can get you a key.
Okay.
We'll work together for
And
that.
just so that's okay to do that.
I just haven't met with the engineer yet to talk about what's on the table, so
Right.
I feel like we're doing steps out of sync, but that's okay. If
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
just gathering information.
Yeah, that's what, we need information to figure out when I suspect the heating and air both is not adequate. But I don't know.
It was just upgraded in 2014.
But it's square footage of.
Okay, 15, okay.
Yeah, it's
We
the
can work
square
on it.
footage, okay.
That was your short.
Tried.
Okay. Okay, that was a really short one. Thank
Sorry.
God you guys are still here. All right,
No comments.
no comment. I have a comment, but I'll wait until last.
I appreciate the feedback of the public. I just will say I've done nothing wrong. I've broken no laws. If you believe otherwise, you should call the police or call a lawyer. I am now and will remain on the side of victims of workplace violence, either here, at my office, or anywhere else. Thank you.
Okay, my comments have to do with the fact that it was brought to my attention that maybe people didn't understand why I voted no on certain issues when I'm the only one. So I kind of got a thought of taking a minute or two and picking a couple out just to explain myself. So my no votes was the approval of the agenda. I wanted the agenda changed, and that didn't happen. So I voted no for the agenda. And the approval of vouchers, I voted no for the very first time simply because I didn't have access to payroll, the ARPA funds, or the CD amounts. So I can't approve vouchers without, I mean, I do approve the general, which we get, but the others we don't get. So I have to get them and copy them and that kind of stuff. But anyway, that wasn't and isn't happening. So those are my no explanations. So it looks like there aren't any more board comments. So adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
I still like unanimous consent, but that's okay.
Ms.
We'll vote.
Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Fuensplus?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.